we came off the road in the summer of '71, and I dropped in McCabe's guitar shop in Santa Monica and told a woman that I knew there that I was thinking of leaving, and she said, "Oh, you should call Don and Glenn. They're forming a band." And they had recently been in Ronstadt's band, and I worked with Ronstadt earlier. So I called up Ronstadt's manager producer and said, "Hey, what's going on?" "Oh yeah, Don and Glenn are putting a band together. You should." I'll put you guys in a rehearsal hall and see what happens. So we went down to SIR Studio Instrument Rentals in a small room, smaller than this, and just sat around and played really quietly, but played songs for each other and sang. And they already had Randy Meisner, the tenor singer in the band, bass player. And he's a fabulous tenor singer. And there was already a good blend in the room without me. And I'm a baritone at the bottom of the stack. And so we just kicked songs around, and I went, yeah, this is great, So we said that day, okay, we're going to be a band. And then Glenn Frey was already signed to David Geffen's management company because he had a duo with John David Souther, J.D. Souther. But the rumor was Geffen wanted to keep J.D. and Glenn had really long kind of hippie hair, and he's an attractive guy, Glenn Frey, but he wasn't pushing that forward at the time. He looked more like a hippie. And so anyway, the rumor was Geffen wanted to keep J.D. and not Glenn, so Glenn was going to get dropped. So Glenn and Henley decided to be a band. They wanted to get one together fast so they could go into Geffen and say, hey, before you drop us, drop Glenn. Now Glenn is a band. Yeah. So we rehearsed enough to go in, and I went with him, and we said, hey, David, we're a band. You want us or not? So he came to one rehearsal and said, okay.
So you jumped straight from the Flying Burrito Brothers into founding the Eagles.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What were those early days like of forming the band?
Well, we had no money. We had no money, and so our first rehearsal hall, we paid $6 an hour. It was really funky. But that's where Geffen came to hear us and went, yeah, okay. I mean, all you need is a place to set up, right? So Henley and Frey roomed together, They had a decent place. I was still, I don't know where I was sleeping. I was just kind of sleeping somewhere with somebody. Yeah. And then, but part of Geffen signing us, he gave us a little bit of money. He put us on a weekly stipend or a monthly. I think we got $300 a month from him or something like that. That was enough for me to rent a place. Yeah. And Henley rented a place out in Topanga Canyon, which was out near the beach, near Malibu, the Malibu Hills, basically. But then one of the Manson family killed somebody down the street, and that freaked out Henley, and he left. And I go, well, I'd already lived in Topanga. I knew it was like kind of crazy, and there were weird people around. So I figured I could take care of myself, and then so I moved into that place that Henley had rented, and I stayed there till after I left the band. Yeah,
you and Henley wrote "Witchy Woman" together. What was the story behind that?
So while I was in the Burritos, on that last tour in that last summer of '71, I came up with that whole guitar riff, the sections for Witchy Woman, but no lyrics at all. I was just playing it as an instrumental. And so it wasn't until after the Eagles started that Henley really liked it. They liked it, and Henley came back with a set of lyrics. So I've been saying lately that I had the music, but Henley dated the Witchy Woman, so it's his fault that whole thing. I'm not involved with that part of it.
Was that the Eagles' first number one?
No, none of those. There were 3 hits on the first album, but none of them went number one. They were all top 10.
Oh, top 10, okay.
Yeah, but the actual first number one was a ballad, Best of My Love, was the first number one.
You were with the Eagles until 75, right?
Late 75, yeah.
What kind of built up to you deciding to leave the band?
Well, so I've been thinking about that a lot because I have this new record out, right? But I've been also talking about it a lot, and so the band blew up so fast because we got together. We were with Geffen. Geffen had just started a new label that he partly owned with Atlantic Records money, and so we were already on a label with Warner Brothers. So when the first album came out, different. I mean, the people at the label probably, and they did some market testing, however they chose the singles, but. The first one was Take It Easy. That was a no-brainer, really. But it got really good promotion at the radio stations. It had money. It had a budget behind it, and so then that was a hit, top 10. So then Witchy Woman was the second one. It had also a push, and we were already on the road opening for Procol Harum and Jethro Tull and Yes, all kind of non-compatible, Yeah. And so we had a greased system. I mean we had a machine behind us, and also they were making their bones as a new label they had signed Jackson Browne, Joni Mitchell, and the Eagles were the first 3 acts they signed. And Joni was already successful, but they broke Jackson Browne, they broke us. They were making their label be successful.
Right.
So it just all happened so fast. So then what happened over the 4 years I was with them is everything changed. Every year it was very different, We were opening for those bands I mentioned, and then the second year we were headlining 3,000 seaters, and the third year we were headlining 8,000 seaters.
Wow.
And maybe being the second on the bill in a baseball stadium.
Wow.
To the last year, we were headlining baseball stadiums and 10,000 people audiences regularly.
Right.
So everything showed up in our lives, drugs showed up because there were drug dealers in the hallway. It was just like that. It was looser then. We had security, but that stuff was just around, So every temptation in the world showed up, and every distraction showed up. And then there's something that happens with successful acts where they say you had your whole life to write your first album, and then now you're on the road, and we'd be out for a month, and then I'm like, oh great, I get to go home next week. Then they'd hand you another sheet that was another month of gigs. Like here you go, you're not going home, you're staying out for another 4 weeks. And then they'd then say, hey, you got to do another album, And we're like, we haven't been writing, we've been playing every night.
Yeah.
So that's called the sophomore slump, for most acts.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had J.D. Souther, Jackson Browne, Jack Timpson writing songs that we recorded. So we had actually 4 guys in the band writing, and those 3 other guys writing. So we didn't have a songwriting slump, but we had to go from touring right back in the studio. And the contracts back then said 2 albums in 1 year. You were obligated to every 6 months to deliver an album. So a lot of pressure,
Yeah. I saw Joe Walsh in an interview. He was saying that you had exited the Eagles because you were a purist, but that's not really...
No, not exactly.
Exactly true, is it?
No.
It was more of a lifestyle change than anything.
It was partly that, and also I'd been on the road with the Burritos for 2 years before the Eagles, so I'd been on the road straight for 6 years doing this whole thing, record tour for 6 years already, and I was kind of burned out on it.
Yeah.
And plus we brought Don Felder in the band, who'd been in my high school band. But a 4-piece band has air in between stuff, and every hole between lyrics is not filled with a bunch of guitar stuff. But a 5-piece band, there's more guys that want to play,
right?
And there's still the same amount of places to play. So
Right.
suddenly there was more stuff going on, and the arrangements were denser. They have to be, and a little more arranged.
Yeah.
So that was different, and I wasn't loving that. And then just all the stuff that I mentioned,
And I'm assuming that you and Glenn Frey must have been kind of butting heads, and I'll let you tell the story of the exit, but
Yeah. So there's when Wikipedia became a thing, I put my name in there, and I went, oh, because the story seemed centered around the fact that I had poured a beer on Glenn Frey's head during a band meeting. And I was like, oh, damn, that's what my career is going to be about. With historians, it's like he poured a beer on Glenn Frey's head, right? And Glenn was being the leader, but he was being quite adamant about, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it this way, or we're going to do it this, he was kind of taking over, I felt, and I felt not so consulted, when decisions were being made, even though I was a full partner. And
Right.
So in the beginning, it was like everybody we didn't have money. We were driving ourselves in a Ford LTD station wagon, flying commercial, getting up early after a late night to fly to the next town, or we would drive it 400, a couple of 300 miles. We would drive. 200 anyway. So it was just busy, and but the fact that I poured the beer on Glenn's head, he did take exception to that, So, but we had a very professional meeting, and we said, because we had a very busy summer, and it was the summer of '75, and like I said earlier, we were headlining stadiums and big places.
Right.
So I said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll play the rest of the summer, all through the summer season until the end of it, and then I'll leave then. So the last gig I did was at Anaheim Stadium, full, and the audience was doing the wave. That was the first time I ever saw that. We're at second base, and we're looking at 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And then I was gone. So anyway, fast forward a long time in the future. So in maybe say 2006 or 7, I wrote Glenn a letter of apology and amends, and I didn't hear back from him, which I wasn't surprised about that, but I'm glad I sent it, right? So then 4 or 5 years later, the manager calls, says Glenn wants to talk to you about coming back out with the band. I went, wow, okay. So he and I talked, and about halfway through that, we talked for maybe 20, 30 minutes. Halfway through that conversation, Glenn said, I got your letter. So then I did go out. We did 7 weeks rehearsal, and I played live shows with them for 25 months, did 175 shows.
Wow.
And at the last show, he gave me a big hug and said, it's been great having you out here, and this is not the end. But he passed away a few months later because he had bad rheumatoid arthritis. So he took a drug, that experimental drug or something that he reacted to. So anyway, but he didn't live for us to play again. But I'm so happy that we cleaned all that up.
Yeah, that's great that y'all are able to make amends.
Yeah.
But those years, 71 to 75, and I want to pull it up here because it's just incredible. That greatest hits album from 71 to 75 is the greatest selling album in the world of all time, beat out Michael Jackson's Thriller. And that was the years that you were with the Eagles, and you can hear Burning Leadon all over that album. I mean, to me, that was the best days of the Eagles, and I think obviously a lot of people agree with that, or it wouldn't be the best selling in the world. But the songs, Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, Lion Eyes, Already Gone, Desperado, One of These Nights, Tequila Sunrise, Take It to the Limit, Peaceful Easy Feeling, and The Best of My Love. That's the Eagles, those songs there. I mean, of course, Hotel California is great and some of those songs, but to me, that's just, that era of the Eagles is the greatest.
Yeah, and there's reasons why that it worked so well. The vocal blend was really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In fact, Glenn Johns produced us, an English producer, and he actually came back and produced this latest album I just did, the Too Late to Be Cool album that I just put out. But he did the first 2.5 Eagles albums, and he famously passed on us twice. He came to Denver to see us. We did a little show for him, a showcase in the afternoon in a closed nightclub in Denver, and he listened very politely. We did about 40 minutes for him, and he said, "Wow," he said, "Yeah, you guys, I really like you, and you're all really good players and singers and all, but I'm not going to do it." And we're like, "Why?" He said, "Because Bernie and Glenn are pulling the band in 2 different directions, you know." That's how he felt about it. Then he went home, and then we all said, he must have made a mistake. Get him back out here. So Geffen got him back out to L.A., and he came down to an afternoon rehearsal, and we played for him again, and he went, same thing. He goes, let's all go to lunch, but I'm not going to do the album, you know. And we're like, why? You know, and he said the same thing. Then I think I said, right before we all go, Glenn, we've been working on some vocal stuff. Let us do this a cappella thing for you. And I think just like one guitar to hear the key. You know, we sang it in the room. We put all our heads together like vocal groups do. You get that great blend. We're all about 2 feet apart from each other, singing toward the center. And Glenn was right there. And we sang maybe a verse and a chorus of Fair and Tender Ladies, or traditional song. And he went, okay, wait a minute. He goes, and he told me later, he heard it right away. He goes, the vocal blend was so good and so unique because it was our voices, so it's unique to us.
Right.
And he said later to me, he realized that's the sound I can build the albums around. And if you think about it, all the different styles that the Eagles have used in the songs, what's the same in every song is the vocal blend.
Right.
So he was right.
Yeah.
That was the unique thing, and why a big reason why it was so appealing right away, because it was so strong vocally.
Yeah. Well, after you left the group, and in between you rejoining them, what did you have going on?
Well, let's see. I had a family. I had a kid. So, and there's this cool thing. Somebody said, "Do you have any regrets about? Did you ever have any regrets about leaving when you did?" And I said, "Well." So my son asked me that one time, and I said, "Well, son, if I hadn't left when I did, I probably wouldn't have met your mom, and you wouldn't be here."
Yeah.
And he went, "Good answer, Dad."
Yeah.
So, but that's how I feel about it. Is life is kind of a series of transactions, and you give this and you get that. So I left the Eagles, but I retained contractual royalty rights, so I got paid for all those units that sold for the greatest hits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was able to keep me going and help me raise a family and do all that stuff.